Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer. Slightly earlier in the day this time than usual, and that is because joining us very soon from far over in the old world will be a couple members of the Ninth Age team. And so, of course, we wanted to do it at a time of day that was slightly more hospitable than 9 p.m. We didn't want to make it the middle of the night for them. So, but we are here, and today, hopefully, they're going to get in and join us very soon. And we're going to be talking about the Ninth Age, so we'll see how that goes. For now, though, as usual, joining me is my own little piece of the old world. It's Tom. How you doing?
Hey, everybody. It's daylight outside.
It is, yeah, exactly. It's a completely different lighting structure for you because you actually have sunlight streaming in. I remain in the same artificially lit hole that I live within all the time. Eventually, I'm just going to become like a weird translucent Morlock, and I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, it's totally going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be like a Chud. I'll be like Bud the Chud. I'm a friendly Chud. So I think, like I said, hopefully the Ninth Age guys are going to be joining us soon. They were having some technical issues, but they should be along shortly. And so in the meantime, while we're waiting on them to join up, of course, as always, let's get into the news. Tom, what do we got this week?
Yeah, this was a real big news week, all things considered. So obviously, in my opinion, the big news this week was the Order Battle Tome is indeed dropping or going on pre-order this next week. Looks like it's going to be clocking in at 280 pages, 175 war scrolls, 19 battalion scrolls is I guess what they're saying. So it looks like possibly just about one per faction. Rumors have placed the factions at 21, and by factions we mean like how the breakdown. Yeah, you get it.
Yeah, the new sub factions. The faction which many of which I like the names of, by the way.
Yeah, of those 21, 10 are supposedly elves. So kind of happy about that.
Mm-hmm. And it just led right into what I was telling you. Like the idea of what do we do with the three armies? Are they one? Like, no, shut up. All that's dead. That's all gone. Right?
Yep,
like
they're like now.
The idea that you have like the Phoenix Temple and the Witch Coven and whatever, like, yeah, exactly. Yep.
And then the rumor has it that there may be some combined factions as well. The Ironweld Arsenal is one that's supposed to be coming, and it's said to have both human and dwarf war machines in it. So it'll be interesting. We'll have supposedly a keyword or something that will link a bunch of these different units together, which will be kind of neat.
Could also just be like the battle scroll or whatever, right? The war scroll.
I would be interested to see if they combine profiles, because as of yet, we haven't gotten any war machines that have split profiles in books yet.
You mean like with both types of crew on them? You mean?
No, what I mean by that is like there are no war scrolls that have been published in any of the books that have both a crew and a war machine like split profile. Like any of the war machines that have made it into the current books, like the Plague Call, Catapult, and all that, are unified profiles.
Okay, yeah. Sure.
And so, like, it'll be interesting to see if they combine the profiles or if they remain split like they currently are.
Right. You're not saying like as per the because obviously the PDF war scrolls had them separate. You're saying as per the new books, when they collected
new books.
Them.
Exactly. Like they haven't published anything in an actual book that has a split war scroll like that. So,
right.
As far as I know, I could be wrong, and if I am wrong, please let me know. They're saying that the book's gonna clock in at $35. Tyler Emerson, a friend of the show, sent us a message about he pointed out to us that if you looked at the current stock of order factions minus the Bretts, you end up around that 175 number. So it looks like we're likely to see some of the lines culled slightly, because obviously some of those boxes have like multiple war scrolls in them, like Phoenixes and stuff like that. But it looks overall like much of the lines will be preserved. So yeah, that's good news, right?
Yeah, I mean, it fits in with exactly what I've been thinking, which is just obviously the Bretts are gone, and his count had the Bretts taken out of it, right?
Right.
And I think that when you saw stuff like the Devoted of Sigmar, right, and in the picture it was clearly like the the Archlector on the thingamajiggy, and the warrior priests and the war. And like I've been saying forever that like it was in the original book, right?
Yeah.
There's no way that stuff's going. It was in the original book. It was clearly still a thing. They had a war altar and warrior priest marching next to Stormcast. I don't think they can tell us more clearly we're going to keep this stuff around, right? Other than just saying, hey, we're going to keep this stuff around. I guess that would be the clearest way to say it, probably. But where's the fun in that? Then I don't have anything to talk about in a show. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty excited about it. I thought it was cool. Honestly, I liked several of the names of the elf stuff that I saw, because you and I have been talking on this show for more than a year about how much I think the sub-factions within the elves are much more interesting than the elves as a hegemonic force.
Completely agree. Like, and it's funny because it's something that, like, even in my painting scheme, like I have 13,000 points of high elves or something, and in my painting, like I've decided, like you can't tackle the army at a time, like when you have the like just those numbers, and so I've pulled things by scheme, and so like I have a bunch of all of my Phoenix Guard, my Phoenixes, my Anointed Historian, that entire faction like in process right now being painted together, and like I suspect that like it just it'll like we'll probably see a Lothern Sea Guard faction, maybe. I don't know, maybe. Yeah, it'll be interesting. So also on pre-orders and a bunch of Khorne heroes that nobody cares about.
That seems harsh. Now. There's some people really excited about those Khorne heroes.
Yeah, I mean, they had some neat sculpts. It looked like one kind of almost looked like a barbarian hero, which is something we haven't had.
Totally, man. You got the Khornite dude with no helm on. It's pretty ripped. It's always good to see. Khorne still hitting the gym, never skipping leg day, arm day. They're doing it, keeping fit.
Yep.
I like that. And he had the big spear, this neat little impaling spear, had some fun rules behind it. As you could push people down further onto your spear. It was, it's good stuff.
Yeah. So those guys are coming.
Be less excited about Khorne stuff. I get it. It'd be different if these were new models. But just like the Heraldor, like it's just an alternative sculpt with maybe one different ability. Sure. I mean, that's fair.
It's the same War Scroll, only like one different weapon type. Yeah. Like it's a weapon loadout that we haven't previously seen. Which, like, to me, like that's a really weak ass release. I'm sorry. Give us some Flesh Hounds. How about a Quarterwrath kit?
Well, obviously the Flesh Hounds in a box need to show up. Yes, the biggest.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Or how about the Griff Hounds? Just instead of more alternative sculpts. Yeah, more dudes.
I think we can all agree, as a community, I think the one thing that we can all get together and agree on, regardless of how you feel about anything, is that the greatest crime that has been visited upon us since the launch of Age of Sigmar is the lack of a box of 5 Flesh Hounds for a reasonable price. Those plastic sculpts. That's got to be number one grievance, right? I mean, like, when Festivus comes up this next year, if I don't have that, there's going to be an airing of the grievances, and in it will be that I don't have a 5-pack of Flesh Hound box of plastic sculpts. Because that new sculpt is really good. And, it makes me sad.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's just disappointing. That's all I'm saying. So the White Dwarf rumor for next week, or the following week after this next week, is that the Realm Gate Wars are going to continue in a beastly fashion, which obviously seems to point to the realm of beasts, to Gur.
Well, you really dug deep on that one. Way to really hunt out the mystery.
Yep. Which obviously this is in line with the rumor that we had with the orcs coming, and with the Savage Orcs. So this is all likely in alignment with that. I would suspect that we'll probably get a. Do you think we'll get the Beast book in April, like at the end of the Dwarf release, or do you think we'll go to a 40K release and then come back with another Destruction release?
It's hard to say. Let me say this: I don't think you'll get the Destruction tome that quick. And then you go get this. Yeah. And I don't think it would come back to another Destruction release right after that either. I think what you'll get is a 3-week release. This is, who knows? Like, again, I don't know anything.
But
I
at least
think
they
what you'll
said
get
before summer we'll have all 4 books. That's what I was asking.
yes, but summer is like June 21st. That's a long way away, right?
Okay.
And that's, I mean, that's the official beginning of summer. Spring just started 2 days ago. Okay.
That's true.
So like in my head, how this looks is we get a 3-week Auric Savage release, right? Full of all new stuff, basically like Fire Slayer equivalent, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
At the end of that, you get the same thing you got at the end of the Fire Slayer, which wasn't Destruction. It was the Fire Slayer book, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to get like the Savage Aurican or whatever they're called. You're going to get that book, right?
The Bone Splitters.
Sure. And then something like down the line, you'll go to 40K, certainly, because you're going to have the big Space Marine thing leading up to the 30th anniversary and the 100. And then after that, we return, we do some other faction or two. We get a couple releases that are Destruction based, and then boom, Destruction Tome. I would say probably my guess for that is like literally right before summer starts. Like
okay,
sometime
so you're
deep
thinking like
June.
2nd or 3rd week of June.
Yeah, deep June. Just looking at the timelines, that's what makes sense to me. Because they're not going to go Destruction release. It's too niche. Like this story, I might love Destruction and Death, but ultimately this story is about order and chaos, right? And they're going to keep banging on about that. I'm not saying we're necessarily only going to get Stormcast and Khorne. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that like order and chaos will be the majority of the releases because they simply are the majority of the models. They're the central figures. The other two are playing spoiler.
Yeah, no, that's true, and that falls in line obviously because that then would lead right up to probably another 40K release this summer, followed by the box set, right?
Right.
I mean, so that puts the box set in July, which is right around when we would anticipate.
Yep.
So exciting.
That would also close out all the tomes, by the way, because theoretically the box set would herald in. So if just a moment about to talk about how this I see this release pattern working. I've seen lots of discussion recently about people being like, well, I bought a book and then they released more books. Yeah, they're going to keep releasing books, folks. Let me let you know the secret. They're a company. They're going to keep selling you crap if you keep buying it. Like, you're not going to be able to get like the tome that is your army and now you're done forever. So if that's a thing you want, don't buy any books. Okay. All the rules are free. Your war scrolls and stuff are free. And realistically, you can buy, if you really want a particular battalion, I guarantee if you ask on Twitter 5 seconds later, you'll have a copy of it if you really are that inclined to get it. Or you can pay them the couple pence or whatever it is to get the thing. But what you're going to get here is a series of ongoing evolution books as more things are introduced to the faction. And what you're getting is a point-in-time release. As of right now, here is the book that covers everything we've done. The age of like army books, as this is everything you will have until our next edition. It's done.
Yep.
Because then you can check out and stop buying crap for 5 years. And it's not what they want. Right?
No,
I mean,
they want to keep selling you stuff.
And frankly, I want to keep buying stuff. If it's an army I really love, right, I want to keep buying stuff for it. I'm not compelled to. Nobody comes to my house and takes my money. If I don't want it, I just won't buy it.
Yeah.
If I don't have the money, I just won't buy it. You're a consumer. You've got all the power in this relationship. Quite literally, you have 100% of the power. You can just not buy things. It's that easy. And in a world like Age of Sigmar, where you don't have to worry about like a new hotness being introduced that breaks a meta or something, who cares? So my final thought would be they need to release the Destruction Battle Tome by that summer so that closes the Age of Sigmar evolution, right, of this first part of the narrative. And then the box set introduces the next big move in the narrative, right? It's the kickoff in the same way that really Age of Sigmar was a kickoff.
But do you see it really as a starter set? Like it's its own independent board game. Like we don't even know if it's using AOS rules.
I think I mean, who knows? Let's assume for the moment it is. Like, right, that maybe it's both. But let's assume for the moment it is. I don't know that Age of Sigmar is successful enough, like 40K, to carry 7 different board games. Right?
No. That's legit. Yeah.
So either way, let's say it's a standalone board game, but it has figs that are clearly good in Age of Sigmar. And then they use that to kick off the narrative. Like, who cares? There's a lot of different ways you could kick off the next step. My point is, like, they could do big shifts in some of these armies over the next year or the year after that. And even if not in the next year and the year after that, you could see these Grand Alliance books re-released. Again, completely different. New War Scrolls, new things, new everything.
Yeah.
Again, that's why they're cheap. They're quote unquote throwaway. I don't really mean it like that, but they are cheaper in soft cover because they're not meant to be permanent.
Definitely.
So there you go. Rant over / rant.
Done.
Please continue.
So GW really stepped up their community feedback organized play this week. That was another big news bit that dropped. It was the Toy Fair show.
Gamma.
This week
It was at Gamma,
oh, yeah.
the Game Manufacturers Association. Used to be headquartered here in my hometown. So
yeah. And at one of the seminars that they ran, they talked about the future of their organized play, which they are doing some type of organized play. It came out that there was a point system and people lost their damn minds. And then later came to find out that it's not points for the models, it's points for the actual it's not points for the models, it's points for the for like ranking of players.
For you.
Much like for you, for your wins and losses and stuff like that. So so that'll be interesting. And for there'll be prize support for all of those events. It'll be for like at all levels of the gaming. So friendly local game stores, conventions, big tourneys, small tourneys, all that stuff. And then there may be some type of like army or event construction, like so many wounds but only one monster, stuff like that. But all of that is still kind of up in the air. We don't know a lot about it. So that was one tier of this, or one prong, and this is for both 40K and AOS. And then
give me a second here. Well, I feel the need to address this comment. So Q&A is on, by the way, so especially when we get into the Ninth Age guys join us, certainly feel free to use that. But I want to post up this question. Also, All Elves Are Dark threw in the comments. A little bird told me that summer will bring AOS version 2.0 rules. That's well, first of all, I've been wait with that. I'll say this, that would not surprise me. And by version 2.0, I don't mean like, I just mean building on the foundation. One of the things we said from like way back.
You're saying like a rules pack.
Yeah, absolutely. Like just bolt on rules, and they've done it 100 times already, frankly.
Yeah.
I could see like a huge, like Time of War is a bolt on rules pack, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So like I think they because the base rules are so simple, they could just run a bolt on rules pack where it very much can change the game. Like you take the 4-page, you put another set of rules on top of it, and now it plays completely differently. Yeah. Again, it wouldn't need to you can still, the point being you can split them apart, right?
Yeah.
So you still have your you still have your what we think of as Age of Sigmar right now, and it's perfectly playable and whatever. But then if you want, you can just slide on the second thing. Again, for RPG systems, this isn't weird at all, right? You and I have been seeing this for 25, 35 years. If you go back to like the time of like 2nd edition D&D, when you had your basic system and then you had like a bolt on the battle system, right? Where you could bolt on like your large war campaign, but that didn't need to be there all the time. You could pry those two things apart.
Yeah. And in 2nd edition, it popped up in like combat and tactics and spells and magic.
Yeah, exactly. All these bolt on systems for what was the simple mechanics, right?
Yep.
That's the advantage of having a simple foundation. You can add entire subsystems just in, and you know, if it was big enough, it would basically be a version 2.0, right? Especially if it was big enough and everybody sort of accepted it. It would feel a lot like a version 2.0 because it could be a new way that a lot of people were playing the game.
Yeah, and it could include things like, you know, rules for summoning.
Well, it could include a lot of things, right? Like they could. I wouldn't even begin to speculate on what direction they would go.
Sure.
But you could do 100 different things. Regarding movement, regarding the selection of your war scrolls, regarding the way you win the game, you know, regarding the way magic works. Like, again, all these things could be, because it's so simple, all these things could be just very easily subsystemized, right? You could say, like, instead of the normal rules for magic, use this, right? And just literally you swap out those 3 paragraphs for a whole explosive subsystem.
Yep.
So there you go.
Yeah, interesting. No, absolutely. The other prong of this that we saw this week was that GW on their Facebook page that just recently launched for the AOS and 40K. They have re-upped their presence in those environments. And they started a thread for, like, frequently asked questions. What are the questions you guys have so that we can answer them? We'll take them to the design team, which, like, that is big. Like, that's a fairly large transition, right?
Yeah, it really is.
They're talking with they're talking with the community.
It really is. Yes, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. I mean, what do you think over, like, what you're more of a Facebook person than I. You're experienced in the ways of the Facebook. As we all know, the only time I use it, I won't repeat it here on air, but I have a very specific time for surfing Facebook. You can put in the comments below if you want to guess when the let's say 10 minutes a day I surf Facebook is. But what's been your experience? Because I'm sure you've been hitting the page or whatever and seeing what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, they are doing very traditional community engagement. Like, they're posting, like, they posted that banner last week of the mounts that we saw that we kind of speculated on. This week they said, "Are you tired of, or are you still riding on horses? Are you ready to upgrade your mount? Here are the pros and cons of Dracoffs." It was like this little graphical banner thing, and it's kind of this playful engagement. They asked the community to post pictures of the monsters that they've painted up, and so I put up my purple Arachnarok, and I got a bunch of nice comments from people on the page, and everybody else posted a bunch of their monsters, and they're just doing a lot of just general community engagement, which is the type of thing that one would hope for and expect.
Yeah, it's good. It's, I mean, in the end, somebody, like, I was talking in the comments on somebody, because I made a video about this over the weekend, and I was talking, and it was the topic of the week, and I was talking to somebody in the comments, I was talking to Ice King, and he talked about how some people still have a lot of sort of enmity about Games Workshop in regards to, sort of the end times or Age of Sigmar and the whole thing, and it would take a lot to bring people back. And I do agree with that, and I empathize with the situation, because a lot of people do feel like something was taken from them, and I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that they can't use that as a reason not to engage, right? That they're never going to win back everybody, and those people have legitimate grievances, right? Yeah. It's just that isn't an excuse to not try, right? And it feels like the past couple years that's been their reason, like, well, we can't make everybody happy, or we get a lot of hate, so we're just not going to bother. Come on, right? I mean, that's insane, especially in something so community driven like this, right? And so they have to get out there, because the only way they're ever going to get any portion of the people back is by starting down this road.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's my thoughts on it. I'm certainly interested to know what everybody else thinks about this one, just because it's one of those things where I wonder. Certainly, there's some. What I want to know is how deep can they get on the spectrum? You understand what I mean? Of, like, people who are slightly angry to, like, really, really pissed. How deep into that can they penetrate with this kind of an effort? Does that make sense?
Yeah, because this doesn't seem like the same company that just killed their game.
Right, exactly. Oh, there we go. Hey, Bjorn, how you doing? Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I hear you. Do you hear me?
All right.
Yep.
Fantastic. We heard that, yeah, but, like, by the way, I apologize for being late. We were having some technical issues and all that. And also, we know Rob's a little late, because Rob is actually in sort of the Belgium-Netherlands region, right?
Yeah, he's from Netherlands. So.
Gotcha. So obviously that area is having some issues right now, and things that are very serious and real, and that we don't touch on this show, but that is very sad. So that's all terrible. But hopefully Rob will be joining us soon too. Awesome. Well, your timing is pretty good, because I think we were basically just finishing up the news. We had, like, we had one more thing, and boy, is your timing perfect, Bjorn, because this I think is very interesting. All right, one more news item. Do you mind if I take this one, Tom?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so this week it was released that WizKids is going to be doing a new line coming out this fall, winter, of unpainted plastic fantasy minis. Did you see this announcement there, Bjorn?
No, I haven't seen it.
Yes. So they have some pictures of the sculpts, and I thought that was pretty cool. And by the way, these things are priced from like the rumors really aggressively. Okay. So to me, when I thought of right as soon as I saw that was like, bam, Ninth Age. You know, that's a nice opportunity. It's another good line of figs that people could lay their hands on to have some unique Ninth Age sculpts. They're very classic. They're very fantasy. I think the line is mainly actually going to be sort of targeted for like D&D and Pathfinder. But it was pretty interesting to me. So yeah, I just thought that was definitely of interest to the Ninth Agers out there when those come out, because they looked like, from what I saw, very competitively priced.
Yeah, it sounds good. It's always nice to have new companies popping up and making new lines. It's always helped people like me that always had to use different models in Games Workshop as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I'm going to turn you up a little bit here. You're a little quiet. There we go. Oh, so now you should be louder for the viewers. Like I could hear you, but it was just a little quiet. Okay. So with that out of the way, that actually brings us right into our pick of the week. So I had sent a note to you before on this, so I wonder if you got one ready. But I'll give you a moment, just in case you don't. You can think of one real quick. Tom, do you have a pick of the week this week?
No.
Boo! Boo for you, Tom. Oh, look at that. My co-host letting me down.
I do it every week.
Well, that's true. I want to direct everybody to to a channel that I don't know if we've outright mentioned before, but I definitely want to mention them. And that is Chaihammer Fantasy Battles, right? Chaihammer's got their most recent one up is his Brawlers Bash #2 video, and it's pretty awesome. He showed up on Once Bitten's channel recently, so I think hopefully probably a lot of people have seen his stuff now. And that he really needs everybody needs to go out there and support that guy, because he is relentless. Like, what I value in a content producer is producing content, right? Like somebody who goes out there and does it. And Chaihammer brings it, man. Every week that guy is consistent, and he does good battle reports. His army's beautiful. It's well painted. He's got a great ONG course. So there you go. Thumbs up. Go check it out. I'll post the link to the most recent one down below. Highly recommend you go check that out. All right, Bjorn. What about you, sir? What you got? You got a pick for me?
From the Swedish forum, I have followed old timer that has come back to the game, and he has shown up his old Dogs War Army, and it has been really nice to see it again, because it was probably 10 years since I saw it last time. So that was a really nice comeback for an old friend. So,
awesome. Nice. You'll have to hit me with a link so they can go check out the army and whatnot.
yeah, of course.
Absolutely. All right, great. Okay, so that being said, let's get on to some hobby time. So, Bjorn, you're the guest. What are you working on? I've got to imagine the Ninth Age is motivating some people to make some new armies. Now, being involved in a lot of the work, I don't imagine your hobby time to just sit around and paint or model has been in large supply recently. But have you been able to find any time?
Yeah, of course I have, and I've been working on a really big project with the Scourge of Wrath. It is the Graeeter Daemon of Wrath. So it's almost done. I'm only using it in the tournament this weekend. So I will give you the link for my blog on the Night Age forum, so you can check it out later. But that is a project I've been working on in 2 months almost. So, but it takes time. It's a conversion of the new Artian model. So.
Nice. Yes, I will definitely love to see a link to that to see if we can figure out, or just so we can see the progress on that. I'm going to mute you real quick and get it on test. All right. Yes, that is what I thought. So there's like feedback, I think, when I talk on Bjorn. So all right, whatever. We'll figure that out. Here you go. I'll let's see. How do I unmute you? Uh-oh. All right. Now I have to figure out how to unmute him. Can you unmute yourself? I have no power to. There it is. Okay, good. All right, so you just want to watch that back and forth. We got a little scratch going on. Actually, it sounds like it's kind of gone away there. Okay, good. All right. So, Tom, what are you working on? Still dwarves?
Still dwarves. I'm moving into the final stages of my Ironbreakers. So, for the budget of Sigmar, I may have to bail on my final month. I may only be able to do 5 months because I'm at the outer limits of my time limit. So, alas.
Well, there you go. You'll only have a ridiculously huge army instead of an insanely huge dwarf army. So, oh no. Nobody's going to miss those extra dwarves, least of all me. No one wants to see more Sundays in the world, I promise you. It's the case. Me, myself, I am working on the final piece for the last March of the Tomb Kings. And this is all I'm going to show right here. This is what I'm working. It's like this little thing right here. I will say that this is a component of it. I will show nothing else until I'm done. You get that. You get this little thing. That's all there is to it. All right. So, but that will be. I'm working on the big final project. All right. With that out of the way, of course, we always want to know what you're painting, what you got done while the show is on. We're always happy to see that. So, let us turn to our feature segment. We're very happy to have Bjorn here. Hopefully Rob will still be able to join us. But Bjorn, it's going to be a lot on you. You're carrying a heavy weight on your shoulders already, and now it's more. So, let's talk about some 9 days. We've done a couple 9 days shows. We're very excited to have you on. And I lined up some questions for you. And so, really, this is going to be a lot of you talking, and we'll try to interject where we can and stuff like that. But we want to really definitely give you a lead for it.
Yep.
All right. So, first question I sent you, I'm going to let you roll and we'll go in. And that is, what do you think, if you had to tell somebody who just learning about 9 and you had to explain to them the mission, what do you think that is?
To begin with, the mission was to fill the gap and void created by the sacking of Warhammer Fantasy Battle, pretty much. And in the long run, it is to be the fan-driven project that we deserve. And by that I mean that we as a player in this franchise has to step up and not only say and complain about what we want, but actually do it. Because this is the opportunity we have for all of us to make a good game. And it's up to us how much time we spend on it and how much feedback we do. And that's the factor for success or failure for this project, I think.
Very good. Oh, I like that. So I think that's a good statement, and it's the community-driven aspect that. All right, here's our mention. So I think
so terrible, man.
I know. All right, when I go in between, we're going to trade mutes here, Bjorn, because that's the only way it's going to work, because otherwise we're going to drive people insane. So I'm sorry. So just make sure you unmute yourself when you talk, and we'll go back and forth. We can balance it. I'll mute myself. It's all right. So I don't want to, because of the scratchiness. Okay. So I think that's awesome. It's the community-driven aspect of me, to me, that is amazing. This, as somebody who's designed games and such, I know this is a huge effort, and you're designing something far bigger than I ever did. And I know how much time-consuming, or how time-consuming it is. So I think that that's important. And it seems to me that the reaction has been, you know, very positive. Of course, there's always individual problems. You know, people have a complaint about this rule or this individual unit or blah, blah, blah. But that's nothing. Like, overall, the response to everything and all the time that you all have put in has been pretty positive. Have you, so I guess, you know, sort of a follow-up question on that first one that I didn't have in the original notes, but that I definitely want to ask is, have you found the reception from the community, if that's the demarcation of success or failure, to be mostly positive, to have people really engaged and dedicating their time and effort and things like that. How have you found the community reaction overall?
That has been fantastic, really, because to have that much support, and also critics, because critics is driven the project as well, and that encourage you to do more and more. And this is still a beta. We are soon in 1.0, but to have tournaments played all the time with the beta gives us a lot of feedback and also encouragement to progress the development. So that is really nice, and I feel the community really has taken us in.
That's awesome. No, that's great, and I think that that's been my perception from the outside. And I love what you said about criticism, because it's totally true. Like, the last thing you want in design is a bunch of yes men, right? Like, because you need people to be constructively poking those holes and to drive you to get better, to find where your design could have been up to the next level. So I think that's great. All right, so question 2, and I'm interested in this. If you've got a good anecdote behind it, I would love to hear it, because I think it's definitely one of those things where we all love the behind-the-scenes stories. You know, like, there's a reason that we all love, like, commentaries on a DVD or something, right? It's the making of. And so what was your, sort of your proudest moment thus far, in 9th Age? As we get close to version 1.0 and an official release, what was your proudest moment that you experienced working on this project thus far?
It's not really a funny moment as such, but as we started up, it was me, Rob, and Alex mostly, and we are 3 really different persons and come from different metas and different cultures. And in the beginning, it was a bit of a clash, but we really has developed as a team together and found our own niche in the group to really get this going. And as a team, we're working extremely well now together, and that is pretty much amazing for me, and that is pretty much the proudest moment as well, that we can work this great together. And I think that is in several other teams that has happened as well, not in all teams, but in a lot of them. And to have this big project, because we are 180 people, something like that working together, and the team that is managing all the things, that is also one of the proudest things, because they really can step up and make that work.
Awesome. No, that's great, and that's it's interesting. I heard similar things from when I was talking to sort of Once Bitten, and he was talking about his work on the Army Book Committee and such, of the different personalities and having people with those different backgrounds, and how it really helps as you're bringing it together, and you kind of have the struggle of personalities, but in the end, when everybody remains positive, it ends up making you have the best project, the best output at the end. So I think that's very cool, and certainly that's something I value. Tom has a very different personality than me when it comes to design, hence why I need him on most of my projects, because I'm just like, whatever, this thing's fine, and he'll be like, no, that's not how it works. That shouldn't be how you wrote it. You're an idiot. I mean, he's not that mean. I'm that mean. He's not that mean. He's a good person.
No, I am, actually. I say this is probably the worst design you've ever done. I've used those lines before.
Well, Tom and I have been working together for many, many years, so yes, there's no hurt feelings anymore. Absolutely. So I get that you fall into the rhythm thing. Absolutely. Yep. All right. So, my next one was, so as you were working, what was the biggest challenge that you had to overcome? Like, what was the one problem that you really were trying to tackle, and it really required a lot of thought, discussion amongst you and your group? And then, what do you feel is the biggest challenge you haven't yet overcome, sort of going forward?
For the Demon Legions, one of the biggest challenges is that is in essential 5 armies mixed into one army, and we have to try to balance it between and that has not been an easy task. And up to the latest release, I think we have had a really good internal balance, so all players have been able to play the army in all the 5 factions and get good results. now in the latest release we have a little bit of mismatch with Wrath and Pestilence, but I think we can manage that to the next step. So I hope we can do that, and that is really a big challenge for us, at least, to have the internal balance, not only between the units but between these 5 factions.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. Like with the Demon Legions, you've got this problem that a lot of armies don't have, and that you really do have almost, like you said, 5 distinct armies in your one army, right? Like and they're all so different in the way they want to act and play. I will say that in my reading of the .99, I loved it. I thought it was you nailed it, because all of them felt like exactly how I wanted them to feel. When I looked at the options, it felt just right. To me, it really, it was sort of like that middle bowl of porridge when I read through, right? I mean, it really was, like, because I felt like it kind of swung around a couple times, but by the time it got to .99, yeah, I'm sure that there are other people who are smarter than me who looked and said, oh, there's these minor problems. But on the whole, I looked at it and went, all this stuff feels right. Like, when I would sort of look at something, I'd be like, before I got down to the lower portion or even looked at the numbers, I stopped and would think, how would I want this to look in my head, right? And then I would read and I'd be like, yeah, that's how I would want it to look. Small minor issue, in just that I still wasn't happy with the what was the Blood Throne of Khorne, the old one, that silly model. But other than that, that was like my only one. I was like, this little thing, it's always been such garbage, but that's all right. It still has some room to grow. There's my challenge. I want to see that thing be absolutely gorgeous. I love that model. Because I'm the one.
Yeah, there are some smaller issues that we have to tackle now, but I think we will get there.
All right, so, okay. Obviously, we're about to come up to, the 1.0 is coming here pretty soon, right? Like we said, we had the .99. Everybody's kind of, there's, some final reviews going on, that kind of thing. So, what are you most excited about, worried about, trepidatious about? You can frame it however you want, post-launch. So that 1.0 hits. What are you most excited for? What are you most worried about? That kind of thing.
On a personal level, it is to be able to play for real, not only working as a ABC, but playing in all the fields and really try out the army. And also, as I play 12 of the other armies as well, I want to see what the other ABCs has come up with and really explore and see what happens there. And of course, on the greater scale, waiting for the art and background team, and they release stuff every 3rd month or something like that, when new books come out with new fluff and background and art. That is really going to be exciting as well. So that is a major thing, I think, for everyone, more than the personal playing thing for me.
Very cool. Yeah, I agree. I think it's funny because I think you're not alone on that at all. I know there's a lot of people out there who are like, everybody feels kind of like they're crouched at the starting line, right? Like, and they're just waiting for the sort of gun to sound so they can go. So they have that one where they're like, okay, it's set. This is where it is. So I want to tackle a couple of viewer questions right now, because it's certainly something that it deals with that post-launch phase. And both Dieter and Mickey Jenver both ask a similar question that I'm gonna kind of tackle both your questions here. And the questions are like, would you see adding additional, troops? So let's take the Demon Legions, right? Are there additional things you'd like to see added to the book, over some time in the first year, something like that? Let's say we get a year in. Would it be in your hopes? I'm not saying you're promising it or anything like that. Just would it be in your hopes or your desires to have, if you see a good range of models of demons that somebody else makes, you can add those in, or so there's models out there. Or are there troop types that you would like to see added, other options, things like that? Would you want to grow the demon army, let's say, a year on?
Yes, we have talked about this in the ABC, and we probably have 10 to 15 different options for a growing path. And it's not only us to decide, but as a total team, we have to decide after this 1.0 how much we will grow and in what tempo. But I think we will see more units in the future appearing, and I think it's needed because to keep the game fresh as well.
As kind of an addendum onto that question, have you guys considered adding, where there are ranges to support this, obviously, have you considered adding entire armies? Is that something that could potentially be down the road? So I think about, like, Raging Heroes has a line of Lust Elves, for example, in their new TGG2 Kickstarter that they've just launched. Or I think about, like, obviously the Stormcast from GW's Age of Sigmar line, or other, like, obviously entire lines of miniatures. Have you guys considered doing anything along those lines?
Yes, it has been discussed, and I have actually volunteered to the executive committee to when or if they're gonna start the mercenary army. I want to be on that train as well, because that is one of my favorite armies, and that is something I really want to do. So we'll see.
That's awesome, and I'm glad to hear that those discussions are happening now, because, and I think that's something that a lot of people would be excited to hear. And it's not about, like, oh yeah, we're going to do it, and it's going to be this day. It's about, it's cool to hear that it's being discussed, that we're thinking about it, that it's something that you're very aware of, because I agree. It's that kind of thing that it needs to grow and evolve over time. It can't be a static thing, right? Because no matter how good it is, you got to switch it up. You got to have new elements introduced. That keeps things all fresh and exciting. And boy, those Lust Elves, I got to agree with Tom on this. I would love to see some additional Slaanesh units based around half of those Lust Elves that Raging Heroes is making. And that's just it. Like we mentioned WizKids at the top of the show, but there's just so many people who are coming out. You know, I'm thinking like the Shield Maidens line, right? Like there's just so many good companies now doing really solid ranges of miniatures that the world is your oyster for adding that kind of stuff in. And I'm sure there's plenty of them that you know, if the Ninth Age reached out to them, and I know there's some already that reached out to all of you and have said, hey, we want to help make some miniatures for you, right? So, like, I'm sure that the partnerships would not be that hard to sort of work out, especially given the size of the market that they know that their miniatures would suddenly have because they had that opportunity. No, that's super cool. Okay, so I'm going to put you on the spot just a little for the next one, right? Okay, so before we get into my next question, I'm gonna kind of segue a question, Bjorn. So here we go. If you could add, this is you are not promising anything, okay? This is total hypothetical land. Giant disclaimer, everybody. This is Bjorn's world only, not as a representative of the Ninth Age in any way. So Bjorn, there you go. I've given you the strongest disclaimer I can. You get the freedom to add sort of any one unit you want to the Demonic Legions. What's that one unit that you add? Could be a year from now. What's the one unit you add?
The Nurgle, the Pestilence Chariot, I think. That is one I really want to do again, because I once built one and have demolished it afterwards to use it for other pieces, but I really want to build one again, and I think that would really fit the army in the future.
And what would the Pestilence Chariot look like?
Exactly, like what's pulling it? That's what I wanted to know, right? What's pulling it?
To Beast of Nurgles, of course. So it should be a 100 base.
I love it. Okay, see, I hope that's what you were going to say. Like, in my head, I was like, say Beast of Nurgle, that's what it needs to be. I am a well-known Nurgle hater, okay? Like, I'm sorry, I live Tzeentch and Slaanesh, that's just how it is, I'm sorry. But that being said, I love the idea, and I agree, I do think it fits super well. Okay, so then I'm going to use that to segue into the next question. And so this one, I'm going to let you kind of, you know, really trot out what you see as your vision here. Where do you hope that the project is at the Ninth Age 1 year after its launch? So, you know, you and I are talking again, you're back on the show, it's a year from now. What do you hope we're talking about? What are your milestones for success, right?
Pretty much it should be tournaments played regularly all over the globe. And we have some spark, like for 3 years ago, when the tournament scene in H was really nice. I hope we have similar to that, and looking forward to a spring with tournaments to play all over the place. That would be really great, especially if you can get new organizers for tournaments. I think that should be a great sign for the Night Age, if you are on track or not.
That's a good point. The TO's so critical, right? Because you can have all the people in the world who want to go to a tournament. If no one's willing to host the thing, it's kind of a non-starter. It's the old DM problem with like D&D, right? And that you've got to train the DMs before you ever have. Doesn't matter how many players you have if you have 0 DMs. So that's a really good point. Now, I wonder, have there been any discussions of like kind of where you would want to have the player base at, of like enthusiastic regular participants in those tournaments, like a number of attendees, things like that? Have you set any like target milestone numbers or thoughts about that, or has that ever been discussed? Let me put it that way. You know, kind of how.
I think it has been discussed, but I'm not into those discussions. That is a separate part of the Night Age. We have stuff for that as well, so. But it's hard to make those numbers, and but I think they have a crunching number where they want to have the set. But I don't really know.
No, I understand, absolutely, and I think in the end, I think you're right. I think it's interesting to hear, because I think ultimately my thought on it is, I think chasing that number, you're right, it's hard to nail down, and chasing it would ultimately be not the right metric. I think your metric is probably better. If you've got a healthy tournament scene with a large number of attendees and a lot of TOs coming on board, that tells me everything you need to know that the game is being successful vis-a-vis its objectives, right? Because it's satisfying those players enough that they're willing to spend money to travel, to stay, to participate, all those things, and voting with your dollars is, I think, a stronger symbol than anything else. And that will be their main opportunity to vote with their dollars.
Yeah, it's not only that the players have to go with their dollars, but have people wanting to organize the game and tournaments. That is a bigger sign, I think, because when the tournaments organizer disappear, then the player will disappear, because the game will not sustain without tournaments, because it's driven through tournaments, even if it's a hobby game.
No, I agree. I think you're absolutely right. So let me ask you this then. So with the TOs, we've said so important. What's in your mind the best way to bring new TOs on board? You know, like having sort of tournament organizer packs for them, reach out, you know, public relations, just general stuff. What's the best thing to help inspire, you know, sort of a new generation of TOs to host the Ninth Age in your mind?
A tournament pack would be nice if you could organize. I don't think it's a big thing for us to do, but I think it has to be done. The same thing is with scoring systems. There are several scoring systems out there for tournament organizers to use, but we have to highlight them and show them to them. And it should also be included in our feedback report to use these systems to get in the results, and then we can interact with the tournament organizers in a better way as well. Other than that, it's pretty much up to clubs as well to help tournament organizers to set up tournaments. I think the clubs is a really big part of the thing as well.
So would you, in sort of your ideal world, let's say there's a positive feedback loop where you're able to work with the TOs to not only help them set up the tournament, but then to gather that information back. How vital do you think that information is to you to you and the other Army Book committees and the rules team in general, and everyone making decisions about, you know, tweaks and changes both to individual books and to the rules themselves in a year, 2 years, 3 years to come? Like, do you think that's going to be a major source of how you make adjustments and move the game along?
Yes, I think it will be the main asset to use. Up to now, it has been so short times between the different versions in the beta, so we have to go with our gut feeling and our own playtesting. But as we progress now, we have half years cycles or something like that, then the tournament results will be much more important, because you can see trends, you can see much more depth analysis, and I think we have the tournament team that are only waiting for the 1.0 to start, so we can really gather those resources, and that will be a main source for our discussions in the future.
Awesome. No, that makes sense. And I think that when you look at that, to me, it's like I do a lot of data analytics in my sort of day job, and one of the things I always talk about is like you want the good combination of objective and subjective data to make good decisions. And it seems to me like the subjective data is people's sort of individual feelings on the forums, contributing, just talking and discussing, right? That's your anecdotal, your subjective evidence. Sort of you're taking the temperature of the community, whereas the objective data is here's all these tournaments, here's the armies that won based on these sorts of, you know, situations and scenarios, and you kind of put those two together, right? Marry that up, and then you can make those good, you can get those good insights on how you move forward. I mean, does that sound basically like what the post-launch development plan would be?
Yes, that sounds correct. That is pretty much how it should be done. And ideally, we can gather as much tournament results as possible, and also lists to really digest the armies and see what is used and what is not used.
Yeah, excellent point. It makes sense. Often it's not just obviously what wins and loses, but what's not there. I think that's a good point. The void can often speak as loudly as what's present. So that's a good one. So it's a very good call out. All right. So I want to turn to a couple other questions from viewers. So Dieter asked the question. He said, Ninth Age enjoys a lot of interest from developers for tool support. How is the progress going? What on the planning? So like, you know, other sorts of tools and support of that. You know, any thoughts around that?
Not personally, but I think there are some progress on it. I know we have several persons working on the data files for armor builder and such, and those can probably take a leap after 0.00 to next level with the development of programs and such. So hopefully we can see more support.
Have you guys considered like if you guys do have, for example, like an army builder style like resource like that, pulling analytics from that for usage?
It has been discussed, I know, but I don't know if it is possible to build such a tool and get it to work. But it would be interesting to have such a tool.
That would be awesome. If you, I've never even thought about that. Extracting data back out of there, that would be pretty sweet. Absolutely. Okay, so another question from Dieter, which I think is really good, is so we talked about sort of growing the TOs. What do you see as like? Obviously, at the same time, there's community outreach is very important. So, and I know that obviously there's been lots of people on the Ninth Age team doing community outreach. What would you like to see? Sort of what do you feel is the most important things to tackle for community outreach and the ways that you bring more people into the hobby for the Ninth Age team as a whole to do over the next year to continue to grow the player base of the game, the community of the game, people who are just interested in it, following it, discussing it, playing it, everything. Sort of what would be your ideal steps that you'd love to see? Not only the ABCs take, the rules team, but just in general, the whole Ninth Age team take, including us out here who might be fans. What can we do from your perspective to help it grow?
Interviews like this one is a big step as well, because we have to widen the width of the project and go into the hobby side, and also building intro movies, I think, about how to play. I have been thinking about making a general's tactic, some simple PDF file for that. There was one in 6th edition, I think, that was really nice, and that would be really good if we could make something like that in the future again. That would help new players as well. But all those blogs and YouTube clips and such will bring in people to the hobby. It doesn't matter really if it's Age of Sigmar or Night Age, but more people into the franchise is essential to build this hobby for the future.
Yeah, I agree, and I like that idea. I love the how to play thing. I mean, I think that's a good. I would love to see it kind of like. I mean, I hate to use this because it's so like dumb corporate speak, but like I'd love to see like a multimedia, multi-platform sort of attack, right? Where you've got like some downloadable lists that are like 1,000-point starter armies, links to sites where you could, 4 different sites where you can get the models that fill those starter armies, right? Another sheet on there that's how you grow the next 1,000 points of your army, and then links to the videos that show those 2 armies playing and a how to play of how you start out, right? And so like I can pull this down, I go to the Demon Legions, I pull it down, and I've got like, here's your 1,000 points, here's 5 different 1,000-point starter armies, here's the place to get all those figs, here's 4 of them to do that, here's a couple videos on people using that army, the Demon Legions fighting beast herds or something like that, right? And so it's sort of this multi-platform attack. And I think if I that kind of a centralized resource where everything drives to something else could really help the new player get ingrained and onboarded quickly, right? Because I know to me, when I started, there was no YouTube, obviously, back in the 90s, and so how I learned was just a friend sat there and taught me in a frustrating fashion.
Yeah, but that sort of approach that you talk about is really essential if you're gonna succeed, I think. And it has been discussed, and I think they are on it. But it's a big project to pull out. Hopefully they will manage. But I remember as well, back in the days when I started, it's been 15 years now, I think. It's a totally different community now than it was back then, with internet and YouTube and all these podcasts. And it's really nice for the hobby and franchise to have these kind of things.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I mean, when I first started Warhammer, it was like 97, 98, and the people I knew who played Warhammer were the people I knew, right? Like personally, who I talked to on a daily basis, and that was it. I had no real conception of larger community, and I didn't even know when I first started that there were tournaments or anything, right? Like it wasn't even on my radar that was a thing. I just knew this was a game that I played with a couple buddies, and it then growing out to my game store and then out from there. And so I agree. In this time, we're lucky because I think this is exactly the time where where the Ninth Age, the concept of it, can be really successful because all the tools are there. Everything is so bottom up, right? And that's why I think it's I love seeing this take off like it is, because in the old world, even when I started publishing books, you couldn't do this kind of thing, right? You couldn't publicize things in this way. You didn't have that kind of power. And now it's all in the consumer's hands. So I think that's it's all in us as the players, as consumers of this product ourselves. It's all in our hands. So that's pretty fantastic. Okay, so it looks like there's a couple different questions that are really just comments and stuff like that, or answering what we said. I think all else we answered your question there, so I think we're pretty good on that. So what I'll say is I think that pretty much brings us to most of the questions that I had prepared and that the community asked. So I guess, Bjorn, I want to turn it over to you, man, just to give some final thoughts and some final pitches and kind of talk about where you are, where you want to see go, what you're looking forward to in the next couple days, weeks, months, and so on like that.
On a personal level, it's a tournament this weekend, and after that I will try to build the last 2,000 points of my demon army, and then I can move on to new armies. For the project as a whole, I think the 1.0 will be crucial, and we have lots of work left to do for it. It's pretty much 1 month left to work now, so it will be busy times, but it will be fun times as well, and hopefully we can give a really nice first release here.
Well, I know I'm very excited about it. I'll tell you what I can't wait for. Given the art that I saw in the Undying Legions, I cannot wait to see what art you all wrangle up for the Demon Legions book. Let me just say that. Have you seen any of it yet? I can't believe I almost let this question go by. Have you gotten any art for the Demon Legions book?
Not yet. I haven't seen anything yet, and I think we are a bit later in the project. But from what I have seen on other armies and what they're doing, I think we can. It's gonna be good. I think they will use the time well.
No, that's awesome, because I thought the Undying Legions book stood out to me. It was well designed. I liked the art. I liked the narrative. And to me, the art of the Demon books have always been the most fun. Like, look, let's be honest. When you have like the Empire's books, like that's all just a bunch of dudes in fluffy pantaloons. That's not exciting. Who cares? But the Demon books, man, that's where you can go crazy. That's where I get like the art is what made me want to play Demons. That's really what it is. When you flip open, you see those daemonettes just carving dudes in half, and yeah, it's that kind of stuff that sold me. So I can't wait to see what you all put together, because I think it's going to be top notch. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, Demons, you can do pretty much what you want with both art and models. That is one of the strengths with the army. That you have so much opportunities to build your own style of the army. And I hope background and art team takes that opportunity to make something new and really exciting.
I agree. All right, well, fantastic. Well, Bjorn, I want to thank you very much for coming on the show. I'm sorry, everybody, for the sort of technical issues that we had of whatnot, but don't worry, this is not the last time we're going to talk about Ninth Age. No. We're going to talk, as always, we talk about everything Warhammer, and I am very excited for 1.0. Hopefully next month, and very soon, and we'll be talking about that when it launches, and we're going to be talking about everything Warhammer all the way forward. So Bjorn, thank you one more time for joining us. We'd love to have you back on as it continues to evolve in the future.
Thanks for having me, and I'll gladly be back.
Wonderful. As always, I will post, Bjorn sent me the links that he mentioned. I'll post those down below, as well as the link to Chaihammer that I mentioned. Go check out his reports. Subscribe to him if you haven't already. He does great battle reports. And as well, of course, I'll link to the Ninth Age itself. If you haven't already gone there, obviously, and you're interested, what are you doing? Go there, sign in, participate, join in the discussion. That's the whole point. How many times can we say community-driven, folks? If your voice isn't heard, you're not part of the community. So get in there, join up, and help out in any way you can, because obviously all of us together is what makes it a better game. So, Bjorn, thanks again. Thank you to all of you for watching. As always, we very much appreciate it, and we'll see you next Wednesday.